I'm having a hot flash. Those are not the words you expect to hear from a guy that's walking into your office who's 6 foot tall and from East Texas. But this is the same man that went on a very long journey of breast cancer, not once, but twice. And he's here today to tell you why breast cancer can be the deadliest cancer a man can have. Let's talk about your breast. A different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. Join us as we hear another story and we answer those tough questions that you may have. Hi, I'm Dorothy Gibbons, and I'm CEO and co-founder of The Rose, a breast imaging center of excellence. And we're here to talk about your breast. Today we have with us Ronnie Pace, who has the unique title of being a male breast cancer survivor. So welcome, Ronnie.
Thank you, Dorothy. It is an honor and pleasure to be here because my mission since April of 2013 has been to bring male breast cancer awareness to the public, because when I was first told I had a lump in my breast, I had no thoughts of anything except, so what? I soon found out so what could be serious. It was serious. It was malignant. Fortunately, it was fairly small, had not gone outside its boundaries. It did not metastasize. So I was able to have a mastectomy like women do, and because of my test results, I was not required to have any type of radiology or the hardcore chemotherapy. I went on a tamoxifen after the surgery had healed.
So, Ronnie, let's stop there just a minute. Your breast cancer was found on an incidental finding, right?
Correct. I was having a cough, a slight cough, and my pulmonologist said my cough is due to slight acid reflux. But the CT scan showed a lump in my right breast, and which I had not even known about, obviously, because I wasn't doing any type of self-exam, and my doctor wasn't doing exams. So just by the grace of God was I spared the prognosis of waiting too late. Because as everyone knows, time is not your friend when it comes to cancer treatment.
No, it's not. So let's talk about that first time you were diagnosed, because you're a 2-time male breast cancer survivor, right?
Correct.
And the doctor said, let's go and do the mammogram and all of that. And while you're waiting on the biopsy, if I remember your story, you didn't mention that to your wife.
Correct. Not that I was a male macho kind of guy, but my wife loves me a lot. I love my wife a lot. And I was trying to save her from having to worry about something, because I did the research on Dr. Google like a lot of us do. I had a 1% chance of malignancy. I thought 1% chance, why bother her with that? So I rocked and rolled for about 2 or 3 weeks, thinking I was going to be okay. Then when the pathology came in and said malignant, then I had to go tell my wife. And it was really a bad situation, because I had denied her the chance to be there for me, to support me. And so I advise everybody, don't keep anything from your spouse.
Oh, that's so true. But that's not unusual for men. They don't always want to talk about things that have to do with health. I mean, I don't think that's unusual. Even with the men that you've talked with who have had breast cancer, you've seen that.
It's funny, I've talked to 4 or 5 men over the last couple of years with breast cancer, and most of them have their wives call me because they don't want to talk to me.
Well, that proves my point.
Well,
men aren't going to talk about
exactly.
their health.
So it's kind of strange that they want. One of them, she said her dad was too mad to talk. And that's part of the grieving process, is going through that phase of being angry.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that, because that psychological impact on you always fascinated me, or on men in general. So what happens? What do you do psychologically?
Well, the Kubler-Ross, her book on death and dying, was very much on point for me, because the first thing you do is denial. There's no way it could be breast cancer. Then it is breast cancer. Then the second stage is the bargaining or woulda, coulda, shoulda. Well, in my case, I could have done anything different. It was what it was. I did nothing to cause it. There's really no known cause that I know of for men to have breast cancer. So then the next stage would be anger, which is where a lot of men are who call me. They're angry about the fact that they've got this disease. Some of them think it's a female disease, so they're mad about that. I explain it's not a female disease. We have milk ducts like women do. So we just had to be the lucky guys who get cancer. Then the next stage would be depression. So I tell people, be careful with these stages because you have to feel these stages to get to acceptance where you can deal with it on a very logical basis. One guy I helped with, he would never talk to me for 4 weeks. His wife called me every week to get an update of what's going on. I said, please go get a biopsy and quit worrying about it. He refused to get a biopsy for 4 weeks. So he fretted and wrung his hands, and she called, wringing her hands. Finally, she called and they said, got your advice, went to San Antonio and got a biopsy from MD Anderson. And it's benign. So everybody celebrated, well, yay. But the point is that you don't have to put yourself in kind of misery. Just go get it checked out and be sure of what you got.
That's good advice, good advice. And for a woman, if she finds something in her spouse or son, brother, hears them talking about a lump in their breast, she has a role to play in all that, like you're talking about, really encouraging that man to go in there and get that tested. Ronnie, the first time I met you, you came into my office, and our audience needs to know Ronnie is a tall guy, and he's all guy, and he comes in and he sits down and he said, I'm having a hot flash just like you women have. And I got so tickled because it never occurred to me, as much as I know about breast cancer, never occurred to me that your treatment would have created those side effects just like a woman. So tell us, how did you handle that?
Well, knowledge to me is always power. So if you know what's going on, you don't get too goosey about it. You just deal with it.
Yeah.
So I knew what was going on because my body was being robbed of estrogen, which is what happens to women through menopause. So when I give them some talks around town, I tell women, I'm really one of y'all. I've had no estrogen in my system. I've had a mastectomy. I had a mammogram. I said, so we're a lot alike in lots of ways. Mm-hmm. And but no, it's been a 9 years. April 2013. So the sad thing for me is all this work that you've done and I've done, there's been very little change in the male breast cancer awareness arena.
Now, talk to us about why it's so important. Men have a very different outcome than women.
The mortality rate for men is much higher because they wait so long to get it diagnosed. It's usually, mine was the size of like a half-inch size of a marble. My oncologist told me that most of his patients, male patients, are sized like a golf ball. Some of them even protruding through the skin. And so the treatment's a lot different, a lot more aggressive, and the prognosis is not good. So that's why I say, if you get a lump, go get it checked out. Don't be putting it off and play the 99% game, I tell people.
So of the, 2,700 men who will be diagnosed this year, there's a awful statistic that 25% of them will die of disease before 5 years is up.
Correct.
Yeah, that's sobering. And if nothing else, that should encourage us to be sure that the men have it checked out.
I've had some of the lectures that you've been with me on, the women come and say, my husband's going to hear about this when I get home. Mm-hmm. The women are going to take charge. Because men are the worst enemies. We don't take care of ourselves.
True.
True. So I'm encouraged that we get some type of play from the wives. They're going to talk to their husbands about getting it checked. And I've lobbied for a long time, but doctors should give male patients a exam for their breast. But doctors haven't seen any reason to do that so far. It doesn't take 5 minutes that you have the peace of mind.
That's true.
My doctor does me because he knows my history. I'm the only doctor. 40 years he's been a doctor. My first patient he's had was me.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. So now, how did you find the second breast cancer? That's another story.
Yeah, I got lots of stories. I was doing a video at MD Anderson for a group out of New York, and kind of like we're talking about, just stories. And the videographer said, "Take off your shirt. Let us see the incision for the mastectomy was done." I said, well, if you can stand it, I can stand it. So I took my shirt off and put my hand on my chest to feel the scar. And when I did, I felt a lump just about an inch below the scar. And of course, that was a heart stopper. Mm-hmm. And so I finished the video, excused myself, went into the men's room, took my shirt off, and there it was. Oh. It was a real gotcha moment. Mm. But you know, human nature, you always say, about denial again, but back to the book from Kubler-Ross. I said, that can't be malignant, not twice in a row, come on.
That's very, very rare.
I had a biopsy within 2 days, and sure it was malignant. So then within 2 months, I was having a second surgery on my right chest. It was determined to be a chest wall recurrence. And so after this time, we decided to go and do 33 days of radiation, which is, I'll tell guys right now, it's no big deal. It doesn't hurt. It takes about 30 seconds, you're done. It's peace of mind to know that you've got this thing a little more treated in the way it could be. But just follow your oncologist suggestions. My onco score was 11 out of 100, which could be an 8% chance of recurrence. So that's so much for statistics.
That is true. That is true. Now, how do people react when you tell them you're a 2-time male breast cancer survivor?
Well, most of the guys look at me with disbelief and say, no way. I said, yeah, way. If I had it twice, did they really get excited then? And they say, what do I do? I said, well, have yourself checked out by your doctor. Or do you give your own self-exam? Just feel around up here. You know what a lump feels like. But most of the time, it's because women are not shocked by it because so many of their friends have it. 248,000 women this year will have breast cancer diagnosis, and 2,700 men. So that's the problem with the disparity in numbers. We get very little play.
Now, you strongly believe that because there hasn't been a lot of research in this area on the treatment, that something needs to be done. And I know, Ronnie, you've sat on so many committees, and you've been with the DOD group, and you've represented the male breast cancer patient in so many arenas. But what do you think needs to happen with that?
Well, it wasn't until September, I think, of 2020 that the FDA finally allowed testing for men to be handled, because it was before that. The drugs I'm treated with, the same drugs for women. So they were even tried on women. There's no clinical trials on women for the drugs. And I still believe the DNA of men and DNA of women are different. Mm-hmm. So we will respond different to the drugs. That's why tamoxifen didn't work on me. Ah. Because my DNA is different.
Right.
And up in Washington, I've done a couple of panel meetings up there. One of the doctors, he agreed with me that there needs to be some more research on men, how they respond to certain drugs.
Well, if that happened, then the treatment could very easily be changed, true?
Correct.
And perhaps that recurrence rate wouldn't be the same. Is that a possibility?
That's what you hope, is that, because tamoxifen is the gold standard for women, mm-hmm. and it works most of the time. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, Ronnie, you have an incredible career. Civil engineer, you've been, you're certified in civil, family, and CPS mediation. You're certified as an arbitrator. You're licensed in Texas real estate. You're licensed in Texas Department of Insurance. You've had a stunning career, and you're also an author. And you wrote the book, The 3 C's, and it's called The Only Book You Need to Find Your Life Partner. So what prompted you to write this? And this was before your diagnosis, wasn't it?
Correct. Well, like a lot of people, I've been divorced, and I felt like there was some reason why we have such a high divorce rate. We keep making the same choices, and they're wrong. So I sat down and I realized the things that I'd done over and over again that caused the failure could have been done differently. I wrote the book to help people who are in a bad marriage or going into a new marriage and want to be sure they had to do it right, to read it and look at things on the front end rather than the back end. But once you got kids and cars and dogs and cats, it's hard to say, we need to call this thing off. So going in, you have to have the willingness to say, you know, I love you, but we just can't work together. I've done mediation for married couples for many years, and had they known ahead of time what they'd be like, they wouldn't have got married to start with.
That's true.
But they don't ask the right questions. So the book gets the questions to ask and realize that you're not compatible.
Ah, yes, it's quite a read.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you also have a very large family, And I was always curious. You have 2 daughters?
2 daughters with my first wife, and we have a stepdaughter with Judy, second wife. Mm-hmm. And we have 14 grandkids.
14?
14.
Last time it was 13 that we talked.
They've been busy.
So when you were going through this diagnosis and you went up through all the psychological stages, did any of your family ever look at you, or did you ever pick up that you were no longer the white knight, you were no longer the invincible guy of the family? Did that ever happen?
I think it did not happen, I think, because it's how we deal with adversity, not the adversity itself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As you said, I'm kind of a stand-up guy, so I didn't let it get me down.
That is true. And then I wondered, what would you want to see in the breast cancer arena, especially for men, over these next 50 years? Let's say you could jump ahead 50 years, and you're looking back. What would you hope to find then?
The first thing I see happen is to have more awareness. Newspapers, media, publications, there's just not, nobody knows, I said nobody, very few people know that the 3rd week of October is Male Breast Cancer Awareness Week. We know October's Breast Cancer Awareness Month for women, but we get 1 week a year, but nobody talks about it.
That's true.
So awareness is number 1. Number 2 would be better research on medications. Because if men knew they had a potential to have breast cancer, they've seen a lot of women, including their wives, go through the ordeals of breast cancer if you wait too late. Mm-hmm. I think get men out there to at least go sneak off to have to a doctor get it checked.
Of course, getting men to a doctor is the first challenge.
Well, if they have enough fear in them that this thing could be dangerous, they may decide it's not worth waiting on.
True.
We're not totally stupid. We're just a little stupid.
I don't know if I'd go there. Oh, well, goodness. Well, tell us, do you have anything else that you'd like the audience to know?
Well, my time is always available for anybody who wants to call me to talk about male breast cancer. My number's here at the Rose. They'll direct you over to me. And I've had men call me from Arizona, Louisiana, North Carolina. And they call me with this filled with trepidation. Some of them are crying. Some of them are scared to death. And about 30, 45 minutes later, they're calmed down. They're laughing, joking, telling stories. So it's important that you share this with somebody who understands. And I love women like most guys do, but they just have a different perspective than men.
That's true.
It's like women can't talk to men about his breast cancer. We can't talk about their breast cancer. So
yes.
So it's just awareness and a contact point that we talk to each other and make them realize that you're not alone. To go back to statistics, I think University of Colorado years ago had a survey of 100 men, and 67% said would not tell anybody they had breast cancer because they thought it was embarrassing. That's a shame.
That's a shame.
They robbed themselves and their families of the awareness and the public from the awareness, too.
Right. It's very hard for men to come forward, very hard to be public.
I understand
about
that. I mean, if it's your best interest, tell somebody. Right. But you're also helping somebody else what bothers me. They're denying. If I'd known about it, I would have been scared to death. He said, you have a lump in your chest. I would have said, so what? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was real cavalier about it at the beginning, and I'm not cavalier at all. In fact, I get pretty excited about people talking about breast lumps.
Yeah.
But I think this is a better testing, medicine for testing for medicines. Awareness is the big thing. And get men to start calling each other and say, did you know I talked to this guy with breast cancer? But maybe they will. Maybe it's just a transition. Men have to get out of the Stone Age. You know, we're not wearing clubs anymore. We're wearing bearskins. And we're supposed to be sophisticated guys.
Well, Ronnie, that's certainly a description. I don't know that I agree with that, but I do hear what you're saying about men. It's hard. It's hard for men to admit they've got something else going on. So, again, if you have a question about male breast cancer, please, or you need to talk to Ronnie Pace, then contact the Rose. Our website is therose.org. Let us know how he can get in touch with you, and we'll connect you, because Ronnie is always ready to talk to anyone, male or female, about male breast cancer. He's also a speaker. Now, I don't know if you're on the road as much as you used to be.
Now, COVID kind of stopped a lot of that.
Yeah, but he has some excellent videos, some excellent education videos. So just let us know if you need to talk to him.
And one thing we're not talked about, Dora, if I could interject, is
Sure.
that the caregiver, the wife, she needs to really be on board with this thing too.
And what do you mean by that?
Well, because cancer is not a personal disease; it's a family disease. The wife, the kids, everybody, your family—they're all involved to some level because the dynamics of the system change. The family's not the same after breast cancer shows up on the door.
For male or female?
Correct. So I think the wives need to be aware of the fact they need to be a little more proactive. I hate that word. Proactive and seeing that their husband is checked out. And if he does have a lump, don't let him sit on it. Make him go do it. Women have ways to get their husband to do what they need to get done.
True.
Y'all are very persuasive.
True. And then if there is a diagnosis, then that's when the caregivers need to recognize they need care too. And they certainly have a different role to play in the life of their husband. What else would you tell them?
That you never give up.
That's true. 9 years out?
9 years out, and 2015, what did it be? 7 years on the second one.
That's super.
So,
hey.
And I think take a situation, like I said earlier, take a bad situation, turn it into something good, which I've tried to do with this deal.
You certainly have. So many people now know more about male breast cancer.
Well, thanks to you.
And you, I have to tell the audience, I can never just say breast cancer in women without adding men ever since Ronnie came on our board. So, again, Ronnie, thank you so much. Anything else you...
No, Dorothy, thank you. Everybody listening, please just pay attention that this is a very important thing for men to understand, and it won't go away. It's here to stay. But it's treatable just like women are. And probably our mortality rate is so high, it makes me concerned that we're losing men who are, somebody said, well, the numbers are different. Well, what's different, a guy dying or a woman dying? It's still somebody's parent or sister, brother, husband, wife. Because we have fewer numbers doesn't mean we're less important.
Right. Right.
That's what gets me is that 2,200 men, okay, well, we lose 500 men a year. That's 500 families that are disrupted with the man gone.
So true.
So I'll quit preaching.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Certainly. Your last words of advice, never give up.
Correct.
Share and keep going. Ronnie, thank you again for being with us on Let's Talk About Your Breast. And thank you for being so open and candid about your own breast cancer. So until we need you again, we're gonna stop right there and tell our listeners thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Freddie Cruz Creative Works and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish, it's essential.